This weather dashboard looks simple, but most developers build it completely wrong. Today, we are building it the right way with real weather data, a 5-day forecast, and map integration using only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No frameworks, no fake data, just real APIs and real front-end skills. By the end of this video, you will have a project that actually belongs in your portfolio. Hi there, myself Sarath Chandar. Welcome to Code Hunter Sharath. On this channel, we don't just watch tutorials, we hunt real world problems and solve them using clean JavaScript projects. If you are serious about improving your front end skills and building job ready projects, make sure you subscribe and turn on notification. In this video, you will learn how to work with OpenWeather API, fetch and display live weather data, build a 5-day weather forecast, integrate a map using latitude and longitude, handle errors like a real developer. Structure your JavaScript cleanly. Stick till the end. I will also show you how to improve this project further. Let me quickly show you what we are building. Search and city. For example, I will take Mumbai and hit search. And directly the map will show the Mumbai with a pinpoint and will get the 29 degrees Celsius. Feels like 30, and how much humidity, and what is the wind speed, and what is the air quality, and what is the hourly next 24, along with that 5-day forecast. So instead of searching, we have a option to select and find the weather. For example, I am selecting to Navi Mumbai. The pinpoint automatically change to Mumbai to Navi Mumbai. And the Navi Mumbai, it will be 30 degrees Celsius and the wind speed is 15 km per hour. And the same for air quality and then 5-day forecast. Along with that, we have a layers. So based on this, we can change the map opacity to check the temperature or wind speed or the pressure. Along with that, we can change the opacity and we have a matrix unit for degree Celsius and then degree Fahrenheit. If we change to Fahrenheit, it will automatically change to 85 Fahrenheit. And then we have a theme setup for day and night. This is not a toy project. This is the kind of project recruiters actually like to see. Quick question, would you like a React version of this project? Comment React below. Let's start by setting up the project structure. In my desktop, I have already created a folder, build a weather dashboard. I will open this project into a Visual Studio Code. Drag this folder, it will automatically opens the folder. Inside this, we have a simple and clean structure with index.html, style.css and script.js. Simple structure, but we'll use it in a professional way. HTML is the skeleton of our application. First, I will change the title to Weather Dashboard with OpenWeather plus Leaflet Map by Sarath Chandar. And I have already linked the styling of style.css and then script.js. Along with that, we need to enable the Leaflet Map. So for that, I am using the package of Leaflet 1.9.4 and I need to use the JS as well. Already the Copilot suggests I will hit tab. So it will automatically take the leaflet of 1.9.4 with the leaflet.js. And then I'm using a chart.js. So for that, again, I will take the CDN of chartumd.min.js. Inside the body, I need to create the header. Inside the header, I will create the div with class of wrap bar. So I need to create the header bar. Inside that, I need to create one more div with class of brand. inside this brand I'm going to create the span class logo along with the weather icon, and then I will create one more span tag as title with weather dashboard, and next to the brand I will create a input box to enter the city. Input type as text and then place order of search city. I will add the examples as well, like example Bengaluru, London or New York, and I will close the input tag, and again I'm going to create a button as Copilot suggests. I will take this as a button and I will use the class for that as a btn, and next to that I will create one more button, find my location. So again I will use the same, use my location, and next to that I will create one more button, id of theme, and then class button and the text of night, and I will use the icon for night, and I will use the title for toggle day or night, and this is how the header look like. And first we'll see this header into the browser. So for that, in Visual Studio Code I have a live server. Once I click, it will automatically start this project into the default browser. I'm using a Chrome. Here we can see the weather dashboard as title, and then input box and search button, use my location button, as well as the night button. And next to the header we need to create a main. For that I will create a main and I will close the main. Inside the main we are going to create the sessions. For the session I will use the class as called, and I will close the session. Inside the session I will create a div class as session, and inside that I need to add the header of h3 with map and layers, and next to that I need to create one more div with class of row. This will contain row with style of justify content space between. So this will create a session with right and left, and inside I will create one more div with class of row again. Here I will create a label to tell the user this is the layers, and then I will create a select box with id of layer select and then class of select. Inside this option of value equal to empty, so first as none, and this is a base map, and then second option as value of temp new, and then option of temperature, and then third option reception, and then fourth option is clouds new, and then fifth option is wind, and then last option is pressure. If I go to the browser, so here we can see the layer and then select box, and next to the select I will create one more label of opacity. So this is a slider, so again I will use the input type range, and then id of layer opacity min and max of 0 and 1, step 0.5, and then default value is 0.7. Again if I go to the browser, here we can see the default value of 0.7, and it will move only 0.5. So next to that I will create one more div with class of row again. In this row I will create one more label of units, and then this is the unit selection to select id units, and then class of select option will be metric of degree Celsius and then imperial of degree Fahrenheit. I will accept this from the Copilot. Inside this session I will create one more div with id map. Inside this div we are going to load the map from Leaflet, and again I'm going to create one more div with class session and then notice and class. So inside this I will add a note. The note will be weather titles by OpenWeather map at OpenStreetMap contributors. If I save, if I go to the browser, right now it is a div. We have not yet loaded that map. Now the left session is done. Now I need to create the right session. So for that again I'm going to create session and then class of grid, and then I will create one more div with class of session current. In this we're going to add the current weather, and then I will create one more div with style of font size 32 px, and then id it will be w icon, and then next to that I will create one more div. Inside that we'll create one more div with class of city, id of city. By default it will be an empty, so I will give the underscore value here, and same thing I will create one more div with class description, and then id of again description, and here we are going to mention such a city or use your location, and then same for div with class of temperature, and then same as I will use for humidity, feels like, and then wind, pressure, as well as visibility, and then sunrise or sunset. And one more card I'm going to create for 24 hours wing, so I will use div class as card. Here again div class session. Inside that I will create h3 air quality, and I will create one more div with class of row, and then style will be justify content, will be space between, and then align items center. So inside this I will create div with aqi description, so for that id with aqi badge, and then class of button, and we'll use the style font weight 700. Here I will mention aqi. Next to the same div, we'll identify the user with div class of note. This will say 1 equal to good and 5 equal to very poor, and then I will add the PMF.2 and then PMF10 and then NO2, O2 and CO and SO2, and along with that I will create few more divs. One is for hourly 24 hours. This will be a canvas. Inside this we are going to include the charts, and next div is with the same code as 5-day forecast. Inside this div we are going to display the 5-day details. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we can see the only HTML skeleton. Now we need to design this. For that I need to jump to the style.css. Here I have already created root with background color of grade 1 and grade 2 as well as code. This will be for root as dark mode, and this will be for day mode. Currently it will be body.day. It will take automatically the day, and then the HTML and then body. Next I will add the body with margin of 0, font family with UI sans serif, with background gradient with 1200 pixel with 600 pixel, and then VG background gray, and I'm using the transparent of 60%, and I'm using the color of text. The text will be in white color. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we can see the gradient. Next thing I will add the header with position of sticky. The header need to be always on the top, so I will set the top to 0, and I will place the z index of 50, and then backdrop blur with b filter, and then background again I'm setting the linear gradient with background of bg, and then transparent. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I refresh, here we can see the header on top. And then next I will create the wrap with max width of 1200, and then margin of auto, and then padding will be 12px and 16px. This wrap will be inside the header. And then next thing is brand. For the brand I will add the display to grid, because I need to make the logo and then text in a single line. And then grid template column I used one frame, others as an auto, and in between icon and text I used a gap of 10, and it should be aligned in item of center. And next thing I will add the styles for brand. This should be display flags for gap of 10 px, and this should be aligned to center. And then same for logo, I will add the width and height of 28 px, and I will add the background color of linear gradient, and again this will be display grid. If I save and I go to the browser, here we can see the weather dashboard, it's in center, and here we can see the input text as well as button. Now we need to add the styles to this input box. For this input type text, I will add the width of 100% and then padding of 10 px and 12 px with border radius and border, and I will use the background of code, and then color will be text. I will use the outline to null, and then transition to 0.2 second, and then I will use the placeholder will be muted. And whenever we are focused this input box, this should be a color mix of sRGB with Async color as well as the border. If I save, if I go to the browser, here you can see the input box with style color. If I over, you can see the gradient color to this. So the next thing, I'm going to add the button with the border with the background color of code, and then color will be text color. I'm using the padding of 10 and 12. Again border radius will be 12. I'm setting the cursor to pointer and transition to 0.15. And then when I'm over into the button, that should be transformed, translate to 1px, and then I set the border color, and I'm using the button primary when we are using this for button theme. Whenever this would be a primary, it will be in blue color. If I save, if I go to the browser, here you can see the transform translate with the button of over gradient. And then next I will add the styles to the main. Whenever the main, it will be at two sides, one is a right and one is a left. Whenever it will be in below 980px, it will be set to top and bottom. And next thing, I have added the styles to the code with code h3 and code sessions as well as the grid. And next thing, I will add the styles to the map with height of 420 with 100% and stacks display grid. And again same as whenever it will be 600px, it should be an repeat of 2 and then with frame of 1. And same as I have added for the current with display grid, this will be an straightforward CSS, so only I'm directly copy pasting from a previous project. So here this will be a forecast, again it will be an 3 ascent repeat of 1. And I have added the styles of canvas with width of 100% and then max width of 260. This is for the charges. If I save, if I go to the browser, here you can see the complete styles with right and left. As I said, once we converted this to responsiveness, it will be on repeat of 1 frame, and once we back to the laptop, it will be on 2 frames. And now the CSS is done. The next thing, we need to add the JavaScript to enable the functionality. If you want a dedicated UI or dashboard design video, comment UI below. Now we connect our app to real data. Let's jump to the script.js. This is a quick start import and get a free API from openweather.org/API. If you want to learn, in our previous project, we have clearly explained how to get the OpenWeather key and replace the placeholder below. Here we need to add our key, and then I will create one const of $symbol, so this will get all the selectors, and then I will create one more const that will for format int. This will be capture number, and it will return the math.roundoff n dot to string. First we'll create all the boilerplate to use our project. One more const for 2 kmh. This means we need to convert to kilometer, and for that we are getting the milliseconds, and we are calculating this milliseconds asterisk 3.6 and dot to fixed. I need to get this as an to fixed without any digit value because we are passing as an millisecond. Why we are using 3.6 convert meters per second to kilometer per hour. And again one more const to 2 mph convert meter per hours. Again it will be same for 2.37 convert meter per second. And one more const that will be dg Fahrenheit fmt equal to ts, and we are passing tz. So based on this it will get the new date converted by the string. And next const will be pad. This will get the number and it will set to pad of 2. So this is the default boilerplate. With this help of this const will get all the return value. And now I'm going to create one state with const of state. This contains all the parameters like what is our map. Right now it is null. Where is our marker? Right now it is null by default, and overlay also null. And we need units that will get from matrix or internal from local storage, and I need a lash that is also come from JSON parse from local storage, else by default it will be a null. Or I will set to Bengaluru. For Bengaluru it will be 12.9716 as lat, and then longitude it will be 77.5496. and next thing is last name. This is also get from local storage. And next thing I will set for theme, that will be from the local storage again, and it will be by default a night. And the last thing is chart, that also null. So these are all the default state. With this state we are going to handle the entire project. So the next thing, I will create one more function with switch theme. I'm going to create one more const with is day equal to state dot theme triple equal to day. I'm directly going to set to document dot body, because here in the CSS we are using a class of body dot day. If this is contains, I'm again going to use the class list dot toggle equal to day. And again I'm going to change the button style with const of button and theme toggle button. And again I'm going to change the icon with day or night. Button dot set attribute area of pressed string of is day, and I need to call this which theme directly in the JS. If I go to the browser, if I refresh, if I click, nothing will happen. I need to create the JavaScript method. For that, already we are using this dollar symbol with theme toggle dot. So here inside this, I'm going to set the state theme with day or night, and then local storage I will set this, and then I will make this as an switch theme. If I save, if I go to the browser now, if I click on night, still it is not working because cannot set property of null while clicking this. So instead of this on click, I will add the add event listener with click. If I say, if I go to the browser again, now if I refresh, still it is an error. I will check to the HTML button. So this will be an button theme. Because of this it's a null, only it could not able to find and place this click. I will change these things to btn theme. Now the error is gone. If I go and click to date, now we can see the day night with icon is changing on the buttons. This is how the real debugging happens. And next thing, I need to set the units. For unit select dot value equal to state dot value. This is where the initialized unit select. The next thing, we need to use the map init. For that I'm going to use the const with map equal to l dot map. This is where we'll get from leaflet. So and then I'm going to use the zoom control as true. So I need to set the zoom control to visible the map, and state dot map equal to map. So here I'm setting this map. Again I'm going to create one more const of OSM equal to So from here I need to set the image of PNG, that is where the copyright of map. Right now I'm set max zoom of 19 and I'm using the OpenWeather copyright open streams. If I go to the browser, nothing is there because we have not yet initialized fully. So I'm going to create function set weather layer. This is from layer ID. If state.overlay, we have already set this and we need to remove the overlay of state. And again, once we removed, we need to set the state.overlay to null. If not of layer ID, then we need to return. Else we need to consume the URL with const of URL from the OpenWeather map. We are passing the layer ID as well as the Open API key. And then next to that, we are going to create one more overlay of opacity. Const opacity. This opacity comes from parse float of we need to get from overlay opacity of value, else it will be by default 7 because in HTML we set this overlay for 7. Layer opacity, the value will be default as 7. So I'm using the same and then I need to pass the overlay of state overlay from from title layer from URL and I'm passing the opacity and then attributes of weather titles from OpenWeather. Next to that I will set the state.overlay add to state.add map. Once it's ready, I'm going to create the event listener to set the target map for the layer ID. So already we have this select layer with change. From there I'm getting the layer ID and I'm passing this to set weather layer. And same thing I need to set for the opacity. If state.overlay not of null, then we need to set the state.overlay to parse float with this selected value. So here we no need for the default value. And next thing I will set the function to set marker. For the marker we need here 3 things. One is lat and then lang and then label. This label is for which options we have selected. So inside that I'm going to create state.marker if this is not null, and then I'm going to remove the layer and from the set marker. And next thing I will set the state.marker from l.marker latitude and longitude along with the bind pop-up label and then open pop-up. If the label is not there, by default will set to empty and will create the API helper for async function to get the JSON from URL. So inside this we'll create const with response, will get the OK status, then throw an HTTP error, else return response from the URL. And next thing again we are going to get the geocode city from the parameter of q. With this I'm going to create one more const of URL from OpenWeather API. So from here we are going to get the geolocation with encode URI with limit of 1 and then app ID will be this static one. And I'm going to create one more const of array of 8 equal to I'm going to pass this URL. If not of it, throw an error for location not found. And I'm going to create one more const of name equal to it name, and I'm going to share with its city with state. If it is not found, I'm going to use the country and I'm going to return all this data from the geocode city. And I'm going to create one more async function to reverse geocode lat and long. Inside that I need to create one const to find the units equal to from state.unit, and I'm going to create one more const of cur with URL of from this OpenWeather API data. So with the document it was clearly mentioned where to get cur and then fc and then API. So all this I'm using the await promise all to get all the response in a JSON format. And the next method will be function weather emoji with icon. So inside this, if icon greater than equal to 200 and under 300 will be thunderstorm, and it will be for rain. This is how the icons look like based on the response ID. So I will change this exactly what we required. And next function will be going to set the units from the CW name. So this is where we are setting the current from the CW. So this is what the CW. So based on this, we are getting the temperature, weather, and then wind speed and everything. And same thing I have created for 5-day forecast as well as for set AQ. This air quality based on the AQ list, what we are getting from the promise, based on the label, it will be good, fair. This is the array and this is the background color. So based on this, it will automatically set to the div. And this is where the 5-day forecast. Here we have the 5-day list of flies to be 8 and 8 hours into 3 equal to 24. So here based on that we are getting this hourly forecast and directly setting to the chart. Once the chart is loaded, we are going to append into the forecast append child. Now I am going to create one more async function, update all weather. So here again same for lat, long and label. So here with const of this CW, FW and AQ, what we have received from received geolocation and lat and long. So next thing I'm going to set the current and then set forecast and set AQ, and I need to set the marker, and I need to set the state dot map of set view, and then state dot latitude and longitude. I need to set this as same, and I need to set the lost from this local storage, and again const name equal to label, and I'm setting from the country wise, and again I'm adding to the local storage. Next thing I'm going to create the for this button search. Again I need to go and pick for this button ID. Inside this I'm getting the value from the queue of input. I miss this ID, so this will be ID of queue. Based on this value I'm setting for the geocode city. So from this geocode city it will call based on the parameters, and it will update all the latitude and longitude, and based on the queue down it will be automatically check the click. Once we hit the enter inside the text area and this button locate, this will automatically take this Windows API to find the current position based on the Chrome availability. So once we get the current position from the code of course, again it will call the reserved geolocation, and again it will call the update all. And I'm creating one more unit. So based on the selection it will set the metrics and it will pick the selection from the units, and this is what the map click. So based on where we are clicking on the map, it will automatically the latitude and longitude on this map, and it will send to the reserve geocode. From this we'll get the latitude and longitude, and it will automatically update all the methods. And here we'll click off all this async function in the init. Once we add this code, it will automatically pick the geolocation by default, and it will automatically set to the solution. So now let's jump to the browser. So there is an error, L is not defined. Why? Because I have missed the key. I need to add the key here. Yeah, I have added the key. Now the error goes. Now it will automatically by the night mode. If I click, it will take to the day mode. Once I click for the allow, it will take my default because I'm already in the Bangalore. So it is the same. And here instead of that, I can click to the Osakota. So we'll get the degree of the same. name, else I will go and search for Chennai, and if I hit directly into the enter, it will take to the map and it will get the details. And if I type to Mumbai, if I hit enter, it will take to here. Based on the selection, it will automatically change. It will get the air quality and then 5 days forecast. If this video helped you, like the video, subscribe to Code Hunter Sharath, comment your next project idea. Remember, projects get you hired, not just tutorials. Thanks for watching. I am Sharath Chandar and I see you in the next hunt. Happy coding.